It's true that these anniversaries don't always coincide in the calendar, but they have this time round. So we had on Sunday, so yesterday was Jerusalem Day, where Israelis celebrated the reunification, as they call it, of the city of Jerusalem, which the government, of course, calls the eternal and undivided capital of Israel. For Arabs, this is another reminder, if any were needed, of the occupation, as they call it, of Jerusalem, of East Jerusalem by the Israelis in 1967. And that happened on the same day that this gala event was going on in the evening, hosted by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, to welcome foreign dignitaries that are supporting the U.S. embassy's opening in Jerusalem. That opening is taking place today, of course, and then the big anniversary today, although it's not being celebrated as Independence Day because that actually was in April, but in any case, it is still today the 70th anniversary of Israel's Declaration of Independence. So that was on this day of the calendar in 1948. It is, of course, a very sore reminder of how this conflict has not been solved over the last 70 years, and of course, a day from now, Tuesday, is when Palestinians formally mark the Nakba, which is the catastrophe, in other words, the dispersion, expulsion, and fleeing of Palestinians from that area in 1948. And of course, we're seeing a swelling of protests ahead of the Nakba commemorations on Tuesday. We're expecting major disturbances, to put it mildly, on that border with Gaza, but also on Nakba Day, which is this Tuesday. We're very likely to see actions, marches and so forth, commemorations in the West Bank as well, not only in Gaza. So it is an extremely volatile week, potentially very dangerous, 2 days at the very least. And then May the 16th, we have the start of Ramadan, which is later this week. That usually, the first day of Ramadan, has historically been a day also when tensions have spiked over, the religious issues, Jerusalem, access to holy sites and all that sort of thing.
Now, just tell me, what have the reactions been then to the imminent opening of this embassy around the world?
Well, note that the countries attending the gala that I mentioned on Sunday night, Israel was not quite as isolated as some of Trump's detractors would like to portray. I mean, there were around 30 countries that sent delegations or representatives or envoys, including quite a few European countries. Even though the EU officially is against this move, there were also people from Central America, from Africa, from Asia. So all continents were represented, but it's not clear how many countries will actually follow the US and make that move of actually opening their own embassies in Jerusalem. That remains to be seen. In terms of, so basically where the conflict has, in a sense, less resonance, less of a kind of visceral reaction further afield in Honduras and the Philippines and so on, there it's not a high temperature sort of thing. So that's why there were these dignitaries from those countries further afield. In the region, of course, it's a very different story. We have the Arab League holding an extraordinary meeting this Tuesday over what it calls the US illegal move of the embassy to Jerusalem. We've had strong reactions from Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish president, not surprising there, as relations have plunged between Turkey and Israel recently. Erdogan saying that history and humanity will never forgive the injustices done to our Palestinian brothers. So again, Erdogan sort of vying to be the standard bearer of the Palestinians in the region, as he has done in the past. Beyond that, you have a few media government-aligned newspapers in certain parts of the Arab world which have, quite predictably, of course, condemned this move and the opening of the US embassy today, this Monday. Perhaps slightly more muted reactions in the Gulf states because, of course, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, particularly now, much more concerned about what Iran is doing in the region than about trying to really resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.